One local man came within seconds of having his car broken into, perhaps stolen, until a superhero came to his rescue. One with tights, a mask, and a super suit.
A costumed crime fighter, armed with only a can of pepper spray and reckless abandon.
Phoenix Jones. Look how he dressed.
I'm the leader of the Rain City superhero movement.
A Seattle-based citizen patrol group that try to prevent crime on city streets.
Will you continue to patrol, Phoenix?
You have to stop doing it.
I guess it's true. You live long enough as the hero, see yourself become the villain.
What's Phoenix Jones' deal?
You fucking criminal?
He's gotten into a lot of trouble. I'll say that on camera. I'm Phoenix Jones.
Superheroes are real. In fact, what's that in the sky? It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's...
Raid Shadow Legends!
That's right, I can't get enough of this free PvP RPG premium mobile game, and neither can you. Let me fill you in. The Bannerlords are basically medieval knights whose land was forcefully taken over by the non-humans centuries ago. Now it's up to you to right an ancient wrong through any means necessary, whether you're playing on an iPhone, Samsung, or PC. Just look at all these jaw-droppingly gorgeous champions you can collect for free when you click the link down below. My favorite character is this one because she's hot. I mean, no particular reason. Did I mention it's free? What I love the most is jumping into arena battles and fighting the clan boss like a boss to receive some of the best weekly rewards. You can even level up your champions by farming the campaign, grind XP, and get loads of silver in the process. Head over to the App Store now and download Raid to see for yourself. Best part is you can never get bored thanks to their constant wave of new content and tournaments. This month alone, they're releasing 11 brand spanking new champions to play on 200 new missions, complete with an exclusive legendary champion, assuming you complete them all. Think you have what it takes? Only one way to find out. Smash that link in the description below to summon your own gnarly champions as soon as you join the game for free. Huge thanks again to the lovely people over at Raid Shadow Legends for helping me out after I lost my child's college fund to a fake meme currency. The 1970s, an era of economic uncertainty, civil disobedience, rampant political corruption, and fake wood paneling. The good old days, according to people who look like this. But the 1970s also kicked off what was considered the Bronze Era of American comic books. Popular superheroes getting their time to shine on a mainstream stage. Not only entertaining a generation of children, but even inspiring some adults to follow in their footsteps. One being the late, great Richard Pesta, otherwise known by his alter ego Captain Sticky. A real-life superhero adorned in blue rubber tights and a flashy cape, Captain Sticky once patrolled San Diego in his bubble-topped Lincoln he dubbed the Sticky Mobile. His goal? To bring justice to the streets, whether it be investigating abusive nursing homes or letting a film crew shoot a porno in his own house, which I guess you should expect from a guy named Captain Sticky.
Not a good name. Sounds like he's like a pre-cum bender.
Average men and women putting their lives on the line for the goodwill of the city could never go wrong, right? Well, that's where we find today's hero. A once anonymous vigilante, warding off evildoers along the streets of Seattle, even if it meant getting his ass beat to a pulp in the process. I'm here to find out the true story of this masked crusader and uncover what really ended his once seemingly unstoppable reign of justice. This is the story of Phoenix Jones.
Was calling 911, but help flew in before he finished dialing.
From the right, this guy comes dashing in, just wearing this skin-tight, rubber, black and golden suit.
Benjamin John Francis Fodor was born right here in Texas on May 25th, 1988. Floating between multiple foster homes throughout his childhood, he ultimately found a home for himself in Seattle, Washington, where he'd grow up. Later citing, "When I was a kid, my whole biological family, for some reason or another, decided that I wasn't worth anything. Everything he had was secondhand," he claimed, used. There was nothing I could call my own. And as a result, he wanted to make a difference from an early age, eventually teaching special needs to autistic children at a local daycare to support his own 2 kids back at home. You see, Ben always looked for an opportunity to make real change for the better, which eventually culminated with him breaking up street fights with 2 million Scoville pepper spray and getting arrested in the process.
Early Sunday morning, officers say Jones told them he spotted 2 men fighting, but could not explain why 4 people, including 2 women, got pepper sprayed. Officers also wrote there have been increased reports of people being pepper sprayed by Jones.
But hey, we'll get to that. First, we need to figure out how in the hell a mild-mannered daycare worker went from assisting young children in a classroom to brooding around the Seattle skyline with a taser stick.
You've got a baton that's a taser, I guess, or something?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome.
Jesus, he's not messing around. Well, except for the time he got caught in his own net gun and had to wait for the police to cut him out.
Guys, I'm looking at this looks like a Batman-esque, which I never thought I'd see in real life.
About that.
Like, okay, yeah, he had a little bit of a rough start before he was ever recognized as a superhero. For the first couple weeks, in fact, no one could even tell what he was trying to be. He looked crazy, crawling down fire escapes and chasing after criminals in a tearaway tuxedo, quickly learning from his mistakes and investing in a $10,000 super suit. I mean, whatever it takes to not look like he just stumbled out of a Spirit Halloween store, I guess. Naturally, though, you'd expect anyone with a title so prestigious to have some kind of impressive athletic background, and well, Ben Fodor was no exception.
Phoenix Jones and superhero character. The
brothers Fodor are fighting each other. Carlos is here. Ben, aka Phoenix Jones, is here.
Since childhood, Ben and his adopted brother Karos have taken a liking to mixed martial arts, and were both determined to pursue their own MMA careers professionally. It wasn't until 2006 that Ben officially began his amateur fighting journey, boasting a pretty impressive record of 15 wins and just 2 losses over the course of 4 years.
That is a nice shiny belt, man. How's it feel?
Well, you know, it feels like it felt last time because I beat up Tyson Cunningham and then he hid somewhere far, far away in a distant land.
Operating under the alias Fear the Flat Top, Ben was so good at fighting, he eventually broke into the professional scene in 2013, along with his brother, a now UFC veteran. So I think it's safe to say Ben isn't really a stranger to combat. A fighter at heart with a passion for aiding his community would make for a deadly combination, in the eyes of Seattle street criminals at least. Beginning with a very peculiar moment in Ben's life that would go on to change everything.
Ben Fodor, a mild-mannered local resident, is returning to his car with his young son in tow.
I realized my window's been broken and glass has been smashed on the ground out in front of the car, and he's cut himself on it. I didn't know how to tell my son that it was going to be safe next time we went out, and that this wouldn't happen again if I personally couldn't tell him I did something about it.
What makes a hero? Courage, resolve, and a passion for justice.
And a whole lot of controversy, depending on how you look at it, I guess.
We basically are a citizen prevention, eyewitness group. We see a crime take place, we run to the victim, we ask him if he wants us to press charges. At that point, we go after the bad guy.
See, when Phoenix talks about crime, he isn't talking about meme thievery or illegal music downloads. Instead, our friend is more concerned with felonious activity on the streets, making sure car thieves and drug dealers face the brutal fist of the law. A practice he first put into action by patrolling rooftops, alleyways, installing a computer in his car, basically keeping a constant eye on the streets themselves. Always on the lookout for anything that could be considered unlawful or questionable while dressed in what could be mistaken for a gimp suit. When I started breaking apart fights, I had no outfit or moniker or symbol, and people started recognizing me in everyday life. It got kinda dangerous and very uncomfortable. This suit is what people recognize, and when I take the suit off, I'm able to live as close to a normal life as possible until I put it back on and am ready to defend the people of Seattle.
No one's gonna talk about what I did if I'm just beating people up and hiding in a bush. No one's gonna get it. 10 years from now, when I'm gone, it's over. And I decided I'm going to inspire everyone to step up to crime when they see it. And that's going to be my legacy.
Ben not only wanted to make a difference, he wanted to be remembered for the differences he made. He wanted to inspire and encourage others through the spectacle of his outrageous character.
Superheroes or a super problem?
Some call them vigilantes.
Seriously, it has nothing to do with it. Why are you wearing that costume?
As you can imagine, the media couldn't get enough of Phoenix Jones. I mean, after all, an actual real-life superhero watching over the Rain City? Now that's ratings, baby. The more Phoenix interfered in crime, the more he became a household name, at least within the confines of Seattle. By 2011, he'd become a full-fledged comic book hero without even realizing it.
I mean, how conscious were you that you were becoming a comic book character? Like, how conscious was that decision?
Not super conscious of it, actually. It happened so slowly. You think of it in stages, and then when you get to the end, you go, oh my God, I didn't realize how I got here.
CBS united Jones with a man whose car he saved from being robbed.
That's crazy.
Nice to meet you, brother. How you doing?
It's good to meet you, man. Wow, that's insane.
ABC aired footage of our hero preventing an intoxicated civilian from getting behind the wheel.
Hey. You back up. Stay back. Stay away. I don't want to have to tase you.
And YouTube videos of Phoenix out in the wild began going viral.
But watch this. There's a video of it. You can see on that one too. This is exactly fucking cosplay dork.
By this time, he was getting clout hand over fist. But not all the attention was positive, as evident by the time he disrupted a crowd of civilians and was arrested for pepper spraying 4 people he thought were fighting, but police claim were dancing.
The people involved said, no, there was no attempted murder. We were just dancing. And he came in and started pepper spraying us.
Disaster.
So we have video of this.
Damn, get his ass, Queen.
Well, wait a minute. You know, that girl was hitting you over the head with the shoe while you just ran around. Absolutely. I'm trying to stall.
Right thing to do. That was
I'm trying to stall, get the police there, get them to do their job, you know?
In this particular case, he perceived that the group was fighting, and when we contacted them, they said they weren't fighting, retorted Detective Mark Jamieson? I don't know, it's fucking cop. According to ABC, this wasn't even the first time he had been accused of using pepper spray that night. Unfortunately, he used force. He committed a crime, an assault against these individuals. That's against the law. An assertion that flew directly in the face of the claim Phoenix made.
Honestly, what happens is I'm walking with the journalist and a guy, that guy right there actually. Ryan McNamee records all my videos. He just makes sure I don't get like arrested or people say, you know, something I didn't do. We're walking on First Avenue and he actually spots it. He goes, oh my God, huge fight. And then the reporter that I'm with is like, hey, go. So I'm like, I'm in. And they knock this guy over and they kick him in the face and they start punching him. I pull out the pepper spray and I pepper spray the guy who's kicking him. That's it.
You're standing by your principles.
No, I've in the super suit on patrol. I have never once broken the law to this day.
So regardless, this little tiff would follow Phoenix the rest of his career, even being invited onto Fox News to discuss whether or not he should continue fighting with a lawyer.
Well, here's the problem. And listen, Phoenix, I love what you do. I think you're a courageous man, and we want to see you around for a long time. And it's for that reason that you have to stop doing it. But look, you don't have adequate equipment to do it. There's a training issue, and there's the fact that there's not legal authority to do it. Furthermore, whenever you inject yourself into an issue, there's always the problem that could get worse.
But our superhero said it best. Crime is not okay. And when he takes to the streets dressed like that, it's no different than when a guardian angel puts on a red beret, and we all know what they're there for, to help stamp out crime, or to be there if something were to happen. I say it's A-okay. Yes. Mace isn't going to kill anybody, and he didn't use it unnecessarily.
The police confiscated his suit and pressured Jones to come forward. Revealing his true identity to the public, though, meant putting his 2- and 4-year-old sons at jeopardy, as well as his regular job at the daycare. He knew this would bring a new sense of vulnerability into his life, and was torn between continuing his nightly pursuit as a real-life Batman and keeping his individual persona intact by hanging up the mask for good. The day after his arrest, though, Phoenix had made his decision, with a move that shocked the world.
At this point, in light of a few things that have happened, there's a few things that I would personally like to do. I'm Phoenix Jones. I'm also Ben Fodor. I also protect the city. I also am a father. I also am a brother. I'm just like everyone else.
That's right, the elusive crime fighter who pepper sprayed drunk patrons in the street just the night prior was actually known fighter Ben Fodor, an already local celebrity.
I'm going to do what I've always done. I'm on the streets, and if anyone wants to join me or help me out, send me a message, find me on Facebook.
Despite begrudgingly revealing his identity in 2011, Jones continued doing what he loved most, getting bludgeoned by baseball bats in front of nightclubs and peeing out blood on a regular basis.
I end up getting stabbed. And we have a date the next day, and I can't go to the hospital, and I can't, reveal my secret identity. So I thought to myself, what do? I'll just glue it. So I went home, I glued it shut, and I went on our date. In the middle of our date, I start bleeding at the dinner table. So it was pretty much, secret identity was pretty much gone.
You are pure romance.
Yeah.
Have there been any moments where you've had serious doubts about what you're doing?
After I got shot the first time and woke up under a dumpster.
Why are we yelling? Why are you yelling? See, if Phoenix wanted to continue his nightly patrols, he needed a team. Besides, what's a Superman without his Justice League? The Rain City Superheroes, a movement of citizen vigilantes and costumed activists spearheaded by none other than Phoenix himself. Beginning in 2011, the self-proclaimed fighting brigade consisted of regular everyday citizens with their own backgrounds in either MMA, law enforcement, firefighting, or the military.
Are you serious? Hey, what's up with this guy humiliating us, though, man?
Humiliating?
I'm Mexican, man. What's up with the sombrero, man, in the motherfucking mask, man?
Outfitted in the finest protective gear, members like Red Dragon brought his Bakken along regular patrols.
Actually, for the most part, I haven't even had to even pull this off of my belt.
While Purple Rain, Phoenix's public girlfriend and later wife, focused most of her efforts on aiding victims of domestic violence.
Well, I chose purple because that's the color that is most represented by domestic violence campaigns and campaigns against bullying.
With so many conflicting intentions between his 10 team members, Team 10 members, Phoenix was sure to implement strict rules and guidelines to ensure nothing got too out of hand.
It's hard to convince anybody of the same thing, and it takes an extreme personality to put on a mask. And once you do, you have to deal with all these different personality quirks and reasons for us doing what we're doing. And before you know it, you got 100,000 different views. The reason my team has been so successful is because I keep them like this. I'm like, super, this is what we do. And if you don't agree with it, leave.
With extremely rigorous background checks and criteria to get in, Phoenix once stated he rejected 6 out of 6 applicants while searching for new recruits. Ultimately, the challenge was to unite them all under the same basic principles, which would ideally keep the peace with Seattle PD and private citizens alike. At first, the group managed to develop a pretty positive reputation within the community, even circumventing a domestic terror attack on a local courthouse during the 2012 May Day protests. Or as Gawker journalist Adrian Chin wrote, idiots in superhero costumes reportedly pepper spray Seattle May Day protesters.
We didn't pepper spray anyone. We pulled it. We didn't spray anyone. I did.
All the body cam footage was pretty easily accessible to the public despite being shot on a fucking leapster. If you look closely, you can see all 4 pixels.
Fuck you! You're a piece of shit, motherfucker! Have a good day. It was nice meeting you.
But regardless, much of their footage would also be turned over to the police directly.
How many arrests have you made?
That are provable. We've made somewhere around the 50 mark.
How about not provable?
Probably somewhere around the 120, 130 mark.
130 arrests?
Something like that.
According to Phoenix himself, the amount of arrests made throughout the RCSM's run was pretty substantial. They prided themselves on making a huge difference. But with stakes so high, it would only be a matter of time before a situation would escalate beyond Jones's control. This is Nicole Westbrook, a 21-year-old woman who moved from New Mexico to Seattle in March of 2012, with nothing more than a backpack, 2 suitcases, and her boyfriend of 3 years. The two were celebrating his first paycheck together on the night of April 22nd, when she was tragically shot and killed in Pioneer Square.
Gunshots! Gunshots! Gunshots!
After hearing shots ring out amongst the crowd of patrons, Phoenix took off after a figure carrying a backpack and a gun, who he suspected was the shooter.
The guy's down. Do we have a guy down? The guy's backpack down the streets. Come on. He's got a backpack, he's this way.
Turns out Nicole was hit by a stray bullet intended for the man Phoenix was chasing. She was merely the accidental victim of a drive-by shooting that has yet to be solved to this day. The disastrous events of that night would weigh heavy on Phoenix Jones, as it was one of the first real instances where he felt like a failure, like he had betrayed the community he had sworn to protect. He was there to witness her death, but he was incapable of doing anything about it.
There's a guy down here. Is he down? Is he hit? Oh, come on, down. Where we go?
I'd love to blame the Seattle Police Department entirely. That would make me feel better, right? But when I saw the guy with a gun, I remember thinking, this is super terrifying. I wasn't running at full speed. When the cops stopped me, I felt kind of relieved. I was more than happy to stop. I was nervous. After sitting on the pavement in a state of disbelief for more than an hour, he watched the paramedics carry Nicole's body away. He was gutted. A fire engine drives by and washes the blood off the sidewalk, and it runs down a drain, he described. I just kept sitting on the sidewalk. About another hour goes by, and people start walking by for work into their normal everyday life. My world is completely changed. People don't understand, and they don't get it. They're not going to care unless I give them a reason to. The incident has not only rippled through the lives of Nicole's loved ones, but even Phoenix, as he has always felt he could have done more to bring the young girl justice. The events of that night were detailed in a journal he ended up submitting to a comic book producer. The story was then included in a 2015 comic about Jones's life, a choice that was ruled fairly controversial in the eyes of critics. It led many to lambast Jones for attempting to profit off an innocent woman's death. It's pretty graphic. You see her lying in a pool of her own blood, you see her crying, she's holding the wound in her neck, stated one critic. That is understandably shocking, especially to people close to her. The comic was released at Comic-Con, and readers were understandably taken aback when they realized the depicted murder was actually real.
You know, they didn't like it and thought it was too real. And I said, well, if you want to read a fake comic book, get a Batman comic book.
And yet at the same time, a comic book like this opens you up to the criticism that you might be profiting off of the death of someone. How do you respond to that?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm just telling my story, and this happens to be a part of my story.
Phoenix doubled down and cited the event for heavily shaping the remainder of his career. Nicole's sister even defended his decision to publish the story, suggesting it could potentially lead to finding her killer. Phoenix even included a hotline for tips regarding her case on his Facebook and website. This wasn't the only time Phoenix faced a barrage of criticism. In fact, being attacked for his unorthodox antics was a pretty common theme throughout his crime-fighting ventures. If you couldn't tell by now, Phoenix always had a rocky relationship with law enforcement.
You are accountable for your actions, so you have to be able to defend whatever action you take, and that applies to everybody.
It's not something that we sanction as a department. It's not something that we authorize in any way, shape, or form. This is Seattle, and Seattle's a very unique city. What I'd say to Phoenix Jones is, hey, you're doing a pretty good thing.
You okay, brother?
But there's a line, don't cross it.
They didn't like him interfering in the situations they claimed to have under control. Not to mention their concern of excess 911 calls from civilians who may mistake Jones and his fellow costumed crime fighters as criminals themselves. Some weren't too keen on these efforts.
People who might view Phoenix as naive or pretentious or a publicity seeker, and even some circles a bully.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous.
He beats up like guys who like can't really fight that well.
But after so long, he had gotten kinda used to it, and had many counter-arguments locked and loaded for any naysayers, always maintaining the belief that what he was doing was far from illegal.
If you're grabbing somebody by the arm and you're physically touching them, can I do that to somebody?
Depends on what they're doing. I mean, if they're breaking into someone else's vehicle, then yeah, because that's a felony.
So I'm sitting in a restaurant and some guy starts hitting his wife. Can I jump in and grab him?
Technically, no. Technically, at that point, what you can do is put yourself between the wife and him, but the minute he strikes you, you can grab him.
I don't see no sense in anybody dressing as a hero.
Yeah, as long as the cops are doing their jobs. Let them do their jobs.
But as the years went on, these attacks became more personal, more damning, especially around the time the Rain City superhero movement fell apart. Towards the end of 2013, the famous Seattle Hero Collective was beginning to fracture from the inside, accelerating with the departure of Phoenix Jones' longtime partner, Purple Rain. From 2011, Purple Rain had remained an instrumental figure in the RCSM, serving as the group's oracle, according to their wiki.
Most of the work I do is at home doing research. So I do a lot of research on the police reports, and I pay attention to the the police calls in general, the incidences that they respond to. I see how long it takes them to respond, where they're responding to, what types of calls.
So you're Alfred to Batman here?
We joke that I'm more like the Oracle.
You're like the Oracle.
In addition to working alongside a counseling center for victims of domestic violence, she also founded her own nonprofit titled the Purple Rain Campaign, a donation site that went on to provide various resources for more domestic abuse victims. Her work went so far as to reward her for the Women of Courage honor from the University of Washington. But in November, she took to Facebook and announced her resignation from the Rain City Heroes, in addition to splitting with her husband, Phoenix Jones. I have always conducted myself in a professional and respectable manner, and do not wish to share the details of our separation. I also do not have any information about any of the allegations made against him, so please do not inquire. But what allegations could she be referring to? Well, this is where it gets a little more dicey.
What's
Wizard? I don't know, Wizard.
Well, what's Phoenix Jones's deal?
He's gotten into a lot of trouble. I'll say that on camera.
Okay.
Y'all stay safe, okay?
All right, thank you.
We talked about how Phoenix is no stranger to criticism, but 2014 is where the backlash is really kicked into overdrive. Starting with a pretty disturbing Facebook post published by fellow Rain City superhero Shockwave, who started the post beginning with the words,
Phoenix Jones is a con artist thief!
Which is pretty bold, I guess. The entire post is extremely wordy and littered with typos, but the gist is that Phoenix stole Shockwave's GoPro back in 2011, only to return a dysfunctional one years later. He also said Phoenix failed to provide a variety of substantial resources, never delivering on bulletproof vests they paid for, and failing to show the appropriate documentation for the insurance he promised his team. No policy, no statements, no receipts, no documentation ever showed any medical insurance existed, according to the post. Shockwave alleged a tendency to show up an hour late to patrols, and how Phoenix would abandon his team without warning. Pretty tough allegations against the guy who claimed the title of leader. But perhaps the most damning arguments had to do with the individuals Phoenix deemed criminals. As outlined in the same Facebook post, Shockwave described most of Jones's victims as just drunk patrons stumbling around the streets. These are normal citizens out to have fun, get drunk, make a few poor choices, but are generally good people. Yes, from time to time Phoenix Jones finds a fight, or maybe an actual crime, but these are mostly just impaired people. Case in point, Phoenix Jones, a Mutual Combat video. Shockwave was making an allusion to an old viral video of Jones from 2012, one that depicted the masked crime fighter agreeing to mutual combat with a drunk man.
Alright guys, nobody intervening? These two. Roll call.
Alright, about to see mutual combat.
With Washington being a mutual combat state, citizens are actually allowed to publicly fight one another so long as both parties consent. But Phoenix was a trained MMA fighter going against this random inebriated man in the streets, and as Shockwave asserted, there was an imbalance of coordination and mental reasoning at play. Would MMA allow one fighter to be drunk while the other is sober for a fight? Had those guys been sober, would that have happened? Shockwave was of the belief that Jones went out of his way to target these incapacitated civilians so he could go home, write about them in his diary, and make himself look like more of a hero than he was. He was a great storyteller, he insisted. I encourage all who read this to share my post and spread the word. Do not become a victim of Phoenix Jones.
What Jimmy didn't know was that Ralph was sick. A sickness that was not visible like smallpox.
Unlike the criticism he was used to, these words actually carried weight, as Shockwave was not only a former Marine, but had worked with Jones for years prior to making this post. He was fed up, especially after feeling his friends on the team had been betrayed by the man they trusted. As a result, people were actually starting to look at our hero in a different light. Maybe Phoenix Jones wasn't as altruistic as he seemed on the surface.
What do we do when something really bad happens? What number do we call?
911!
That's right.
911!
Right. See you guys later.
After some tense meetings and further accusations that Phoenix stole another hero's helmet, it was announced on May 29th, 2014 that the group would be ceasing all further operations and breaking up for good. Phoenix defended his decision by claiming the group was no longer well organized, and even accused some members of possessing illegal weapons. With the impulsivity of Phoenix Jones's actions paired with his strict guidelines for those working under his supervision, I'm afraid it was only a matter of time before this kind of division happened. As Purple Rain and others went on to continue their efforts solo, Phoenix was looking for a fresh start and opted to use his mounting street cred to promote a professional MMA career, at least on the side of his usual hero work. He wasn't ending everything just yet, but this was indicative of a changing tide within Phoenix.
Oh yeah. How exactly? Wait, the amazing adventures of real life superheroes and the less than amazing adventures of some other guys in outfits. Did you read the whole title?
Right.
How many crimes have any other superheroes other than me stopped in Washington State?
Phoenix Jones was never the same after the Rain City superheroes disbanded, as his behavior since teetered on the line of carelessness, threatening to harm people in their own homes, going on tirades, declaring himself the only real superhero left. It just wasn't in line with the friendly neighborhood Phoenix Jones Seattle had come to know and love.
Phoenix Jones was the one thing I did that didn't have anything to do about my ego at the original. I mean, it did at the end, but certainly didn't at the beginning. You know, it was the one thing I did where my ego was not involved. It was completely hidden. It was fun to watch the newspaper clippings and sit there and not say anything, you know?
I guess last night I hit on one of his girlfriends that he didn't like, and he started slandering me all over Facebook, and then he came here threatening me. He said he was going to beat me and piss on my face, and then when she went downstairs to tell him to leave, he said if I didn't come out, he was going to kick the door in. He also said he was going to kill me, that I need to be dead. I have all these screenshots on.
Yeah, he texted him saying that he would follow
I have
him
them all
around.
on my phone.
After years of posturing a reputation built on honor and justice, seeing him leave a criminal unconscious by the side of the road and tweeting the police to come pick him up seemed wildly out of character. He even left a headshot of himself as a business card for when the guy wakes up. It's bizarre. It's insane. He was so different compared to the man who originally took to the streets in 2010. The selflessness had completely faded from his persona by 2016. It really did feel like his star was fading with his pure intentions as Phoenix began to make fewer and fewer public appearances until his final disappearance towards the end of the decade. He was no longer patrolling the Seattle streets every night. In fact, it seemed he had vanished from the public eye for good, seemingly for no reason. Where was the man who once couldn't get enough of the spotlight? And what could have led him down this dramatic path of reclusion?
I mean, handing out food to homeless people. I mean, handing out food to the homeless is awesome because it gives you tips. The homeless is the best way to get tips in the city. But if you need a food handler's card to fight crime, you're not fighting crime, okay? You're a real-life sandwich handler. You are a LARPer with a bag of food. I am a superhero. Like, you guys don't, it's so frustrating to talk to people because you guys don't get it.
The name Ben Fodor hadn't been uttered for years by the time it cropped back up in headlines at the beginning of 2020. It appeared Phoenix Jones had been the target of an undercover drug bust, beginning with two confidential witnesses who approached Seattle PD with a tip that the former crime fighter had been dealing drugs for quite some time. In fact, those closest to Jones considered it more of an open secret than anything.
Homelessness is really weird because I want to say, you know, when you're homeless, you have to do certain things if you're going to survive. But at the same time, there's a certain way to behave and there's a certain way to just live in a society. Stealing is stealing. I'm not going to let you get away with that. And especially detergent. This new way to get high with detergent, I found out. But
the hero who once busted homeless people for doing drugs on the street was caught dealing them himself, making Phoenix Jones the biggest perpetrator to fund an anti-drug campaign with drug money since the US government.
He was kind of known, he was getting known out there for doing illegal stuff, that he was starting to become a drug dealer. And, you know, the little kid in me was like, no, don't tell me that. I don't want to hear that. I was kind of in denial. And then this bombshell dropped, that the article came out that he was arrested. And I was just, and my little kid inside me just went, ah, crushed.
Being arrested on January 9th along with his girlfriend, Jones was charged with 2 counts of drug violation over possession of Molly and cocaine. The undercover sting went as follows. An agent by the name of Mike paid Jones a total of $200 for 7 grams of MDMA at a local Starbucks. The entire encounter was monitored by additional agents watching from outside and was further traced via messages sent between the 2 parties. Not even a week later, Mike attempted to buy from Jones again, this time sending $500 to his Venmo in hopes of purchasing more ecstasy. After Jones stood them up, another fake alias was created, Laura, who attempted to buy $225 worth of cocaine. This time they stroked his ego a bit. Laura played into the whole, "Oh my god, you're a famous superhero" thing, and managed to acquire a meetup with our man. Phoenix Jones was then taken into custody at Seattle's Soto neighborhood shortly before 11 p.m. And with that, the internet had a field day.
Why be a superhero when I can be a supervillain and get paid? Because that's what was happening. He said, well, doing this dumb shit ain't earning me no money.
Yeah, exactly.
I ain't getting paid for this. Now, if I rob a bitch, hey, that's profit. Let's read the story from Newsweek.
Since then, Phoenix Jones has been quietly but fervently hinting at a return to the Seattle streets on social media, at least at the time of me recording this. Shooting new interviews and promoting vaccines on Instagram, bringing attention to various Seattle-based crimes. He's even been raising awareness for Nicole's case, in another attempt to find her killer and bring her family a type of closure.
If you know anything, you saw anything, you heard anything, please contact the Seattle Times or the Seattle Police Department. I'll be there tonight at 11 o'clock holding my own vigil. I do it every year. If you know where the spot is, feel free to join me. If you don't, you can DM me. Take care of each other. Get the vaccine. Be safe. If there's one crime I want to solve in my life, this is the one. So if anyone knows anything, this is the one that I really want to solve. Thank you.
Despite a rocky 2020, it looks like Ben may be well on his way back into the spotlight. But that doesn't mean everyone's gonna be happy about it.
Really? Oh yeah. I just saw like one video of him online once. Yeah, I know. He's come out of retirement after he just got jailed for dealing drugs. What? Yes.
And I don't believe in philanthropy at all. I think that everything we do is to help ourselves. We go out and we help people because it makes ourselves feel good, makes you feel good, and makes you continue doing your thing. You know, if I've learned anything from patrolling, it's that people don't care about people.
I don't know what Phoenix is planning from here, but if he's really returning to the streets, I'm sure we'll be hearing more about him. Say what you will, but he's a pretty interesting guy. Hoping to inspire others from a young age, he planned on using his skills for good. At least that's what he prided himself on. But as his celebrity status grew to such monumental heights, so did his ego, as Phoenix rarely missed the opportunity for a photo op. Perhaps this unquenched desire for constant publicity was the ultimate driving cause behind the destruction of his reputation. Preventing crime with a low profile and aiding local charities could have provided just as much good without the need to put incapacitated civilians in harm's way, and likely would have allowed him to pursue change for a longer period of time. It's not like violence is the only form of heroism, but Phoenix became so entrenched by the limelight, it was hard for him to ignore. If you ask me, he began with noble intentions, but quickly lost his way as the years went on, and as Phoenix began to see more of the world. Between all the bad guys, police, and shoes who have gone up against Phoenix Jones, his biggest challenge of all may just be his own ego.